Presentations. Item number 7A is school consolidation on the ballot. This is hearing presentations. We have Stephen Renard from Save Our Independent School Districts and Denise Kennedy and Andy Grosetta from the Committee for Better Upper Verde Valley Schools about school consolidation, which will be on the November ballot. And this is sponsored by Mandy. Mandy, would you like to start this out?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. I appreciate it. These presentations are specifically for constituent information only, and the council will not be taking any sort of position or stance. There will be time for public and council questions after the presentations from each of the political action committees. I believe that Denise Kennedy and Andy Grosetta from the Committee for Better Upper Verde Valley Schools are going to go first at their request. And so I would like to turn it over to them for their first 7 minutes of presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us to participate in this. And I am Denise Kennedy, and this is Andy Grosetta. We are a member of our committee. We would like to first start out by letting you know this has been a long process. It has not been something that we undertook lightly, and that there was a lot of consideration put into the effects of consolidation for all the districts surrounding us. So one of the things that have been brought to our attention through media and through Facebook and through just talking to public is that it seems that there are people in Clarkdale and Jerome who may feel disenfranchised by the consolidation petition. And since we have 2 elementary schools and one union high school, there are only 3, involved in this anyway. So Andy's going to speak to what the committee did to begin with, as far as inviting Clarkdale in and the Yavapai Apache tribe.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you for giving us the opportunity this evening to share our thoughts and comments with you. When we started this process about 3.5 years ago, it was back in January and February 2017. There was a group of folks here locally that thought that this might be the most opportune time, or that time, to maybe pursue consolidation of Clarkdale, Jerome, Cottonwood, Oak Creek, and Mingus Union High Schools. At that time, all 3 districts had vacancies for the superintendent's position. Timing's everything, as we all know in life. So we thought that might be the opportune time. We went to the Clarkdale Jerome School Board February 14th of 2017 and made a presentation and asked whether or not they would like to be part of the process. And after they deliberated on it, they decided that they would not like to be included as part of the consolidation movement. And we also met with leaders of the Yavapai Apache Nation. In fact, we met with them mid-March of 2017, shared with them our thoughts and what we wanted to do. So when Clarkdale Jerome decided not to be part of the process, we said thanks. We moved on to consolidate Mingus Union High School and Cottonwood Oak Creek, 2 schools that their district officers are a little over 2 miles apart here in Cottonwood. And so that's how we started the process. As Denise had shared, there's been people saying that the Clarkdale Jerome voters never have had a chance, or we didn't want them to have a chance to vote in the process. That's totally untrue. They said that the Clarkdale Jerome folks feel like they're disenfranchised from the process. Keep in mind, people, just like you folks on the Jerome Town Council, you're elected by the people in your communities. The school board in Clarkdale Jerome was elected by the people, the taxpayers in that district. So that was where we went to make our presentation, and the school board decided, and we don't blame them. They didn't want to lose small school funding. We get that. That's about $500,000 a year. They get students from Cottonwood Oak Creek. This year, there's 174 students from Cottonwood Oak Creek that goes to Clarkdale Jerome. That's about anywhere between $750,000 and $1 million in revenue to that district. And so we understood their position, but we want everybody to know that Clarkdale Jerome was invited to be part of this process, and their school board made the decision not to be a part of it. So we wanted to clear that up. I wanted to move a little bit, move forward and talk about a little bit about where are we going, the cost savings and budgeting to generate new funds, to really new dollars, take the existing dollars that we have and use them more wisely and spend them in the classroom. And that's what this is all about, is to eliminate duplication of administrative services and plan operations so that we can take those dollars and spend them on the students where they need to be spent. And Denise had sent you, I believe, our PowerPoint presentation, which you all should have and had a chance to review, hopefully. But the administrative costs for the combined districts is about $3 million. And if you reduce those costs by 10%, that's about a $300,000 savings. If you wanted to reduce it 15%, that's about a $450,000 savings. You could do the same in planned operations, maybe not quite as much. Remember, this is up to the new school board to make those decisions. All that we're saying is to take those dollars and spend them in the classroom where they need to be spent on the children. Now, a lot of the debate out on the streets is teacher salaries and equalization of teacher salaries. It is true that the Cottonwood Oak Creek School District teachers make on the average $10,000 less than their counterparts at Mingus. We strongly believe and feel that the teachers in the same town, same community, whether they're elementary or high school, should be paid the same based on whatever their educational experiences, background, and wherever their steps are on the ladder in the teacher salary schedule. But those savings and dollars could be spent not only to equalize salaries over either the first year, there's sufficient money, or they could phase it in over 2 or 3 years. We could spend money on the existing programs that we have. Mingus has some strong programs. We want to make those programs better. We want to continue those programs. There's opportunities to create new programs also. And there's also opportunities if we want a lower class size, then maybe we need to hire new staff to reduce the class size. So there's a pot of money there that's available for the new board to look at and to spend those dollars more wisely. Denise, would you like to follow up?
Sure. So we've looked at the positivity of providing teachers in the same community with the same level of education and same years of experience and equal pay. We've looked at how this could, when they say school funding and the dollars spent in a classroom, what they're talking about is teacher salaries.
1 minute?
1 minute left?
Correct.
All right. And so we just wanted you to know that that was a part of our position here. Another thing is that we felt like an articulation of curriculum both vertically across grades like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, all that way. And then again, horizontally, which typically happens, would be an asset to the academic progress of students in the Verde Valley, especially in Cottonwood and Mingus.
Time.
So, did we finish our time?
You did, Miss Kennedy.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Mr. Renard to present for the Save Our Independent Schools districts. I believe he's accompanied by Mr. Jason Teague.
That is correct.
Go right on ahead, Mr. Renard.
Okay. Ms. Gallagher, would you mind allowing us to screen share?
Candace,
She nodded. She's working on it.
she's getting ready.
We tried this out earlier today to make sure it would work.
Thanks for everyone's patience. Stephen, maybe while we're screen sharing, you and Jason could introduce yourselves.
My name is Stephen Renard. This is Jason Teague.
Hello, thank you for having us this evening. We really appreciate it.
And what is your relationship to this?
We're members of the Save Our Independent School Districts PAC. We are both teachers at Mingus, and we really appreciate the opportunity to come here before you guys and explain why we think that the no vote is the best vote for our kids, school, and community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
You want to give it a shot? Okay.
Candace,
Excellent.
you're muted. I don't know.
Go
There we
ahead.
Okay, so just go straight in. Nice.
There you go.
While this consolidation plan may have far-reaching impacts, its primary consequence will be felt by those living in the Cottonwood-Oak Creek School District and the Clarkdale-Jerome School District. Together, these two districts and their communities, which voted to create a union high school district in 1957, a union district which first opened in 1960, a district for everyone, a district that gives a voice to all of its communities, and most importantly, the ability to determine how it's run. Currently, the Mingus Union School District Governing Board, which is open to people in both districts, has 3 members from Clarkdale-Jerome District, 3 people who give of their time and effort to learn about the decisions and make these decisions for all of our high school students. 3 people elected by both districts. 3 people who would no longer be able to serve if this passes. Currently, Jerome has a voice in its governance. It has a vote and a say in how your tax dollars are spent and how the school is run. The pro-consolidation group wants to take that away. They want to take away your vote while keeping your tax dollars. Now, they may say that Clarkdale-Jerome has 17 different options, but is that what they really think? Go ahead. In February of this year, Mr. Grosetta, in front of the Senate Education Committee, stated that Clarkdale-Jerome people have an opportunity to vote on this, even though they're not going to be a part of this if it does pass. But they will tuition into Mingus if it does pass. Now, there have been repeated statements like this from Mr. Grosetta and Sylvia Allen that show that the plan for the financial well-being of this new district has to include the tax dollars from Clarkdale-Jerome School District. $1.3 million of taxpayer money from Clarkdale-Jerome students they want to continue flowing in, while being indifferent to disenfranchising the 3 communities that make up the Clarkdale-Jerome School District. Now, why was Mr. Grosetta in front of Ms. Allen and the Senate Education Committee, you may ask? Well, they were actively trying to dilute the power of the Clarkdale-Jerome School District vote. As the law stands and as it stood in 1957 when this district was formed, it takes the independent vote of both districts to create a union district and the independent vote of both districts to dissolve the union district. Mr. Grosetta and his group claimed that this gave Clarkdale-Jerome School District so much power that it essentially disenfranchised the Cottonwood voter. They were trying to change the law so that it would be a single canvas. Practically, this means that regardless of what Clarkdale-Jerome residents voted for, the much larger population of Cottonwood would have the ultimate say on whether Clarkdale-Jerome School District was kicked out of the high school district it helps create 63 years ago. And this wasn't the first time that Clarkdale-Jerome School District vote was attacked. The first time was the pro group tried to change the law, the first time that they tried to change the law in their favor. In January of 2019, another bill, Senate Bill 1073, was introduced which, as written, would have prohibited Clarkdale-Jerome School District citizens from voting on this issue at all. After a massive public outcry and oppositions from not only Clarkdale-Jerome School District, but the Arizona Governing Board Association, they said it was a mistake, a typo. I must ask though, what are the chances that of all the mistakes to make, all the typos to make, this one just happened to disenfranchise the exact same community that consolidation would disenfranchise? Okay. But enough about legislative history. What about the kids? Because after all, that's what their signs say. Well, they claim, and they just did, that there will be enough savings from administrative cost cuttings and plant operation reductions that they can equalize salaries. Well, when looking at the 2018 report prepared by the financial managers of both Cottonwood Oak Creek and Mingus Union, still the most comprehensive, and in fact, the only study on possible budget, it shows a budget shortfall of nearly $500,000 once salaries are equalized. Now, this was in 2018. Adjusted to today's salaries, truly equalizing that would balloon that budget shortfall to over $1 million. But here's the thing. Here's the little secret. Their plan isn't to equalize salaries. Their plan, well, just isn't. They have no plan. It's let the new board figure it out. We'll make it work. The community won't let it fail. There are other ways to do this. Council, I respectfully submit that our students, all of our students, deserve better than to gamble their future on hope and faith. So just to recap, they want to disenfranchise Clarkdale Jerome School District's communities, keep your $1.3 million in tax revenue, promise an equalization with no plan on how to pay for it, possibly indebt the new school district over $1 million on day one of equalization. Now there's so much more than I can squeeze into 7 minutes, so I look forward to your questions as to why we believe that all citizens, all districts should vote no, as the increased local control of our school districts is better for our students, better for our schools, and better for our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Renard. With the
Thank you.
mayor's permission, we'll move on to questions from the council and the public. Ms. Mayor, would you like me to start, or would one of the other council members like to begin?
However you would like to do it, Mandy, you're leading this discussion.
All right, I will start with the prepared questions that I have. I also have received some questions from constituents in Jerome. And so therefore I will note whether the question is from me directly or from a constituent. Some questions will go to both groups and some will go to individual groups.
And Mandy, I see that there are citizens on here who may have questions as well.
Yes, we will absolutely get to them for sure.
Great, thank you.
I've sorted my questions by classroom impact, representation, and fiscal issues. So I'm going to start with classroom impact. For the pro-consolidation group for Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grosetta, according to the Arizona Auditor General's report from 2019, Mingus spent 72.3% of their budget in the classroom, whereas COCSD only spent 66.3% of their budget in the classroom. It's a 6% difference, or $183 per student. To bring COCSD's in-classroom spending up to the same level as Mingus would be a cost of almost $400,000. How would a consolidated district manage this discrepancy to avoid in-classroom losses at the high school level?
Well, Mandy, here's the thing. This is part of our discussion when we're talking about salary equalization, because what we're talking about is the money spent in the classroom is calculated off of the wage or the salary of the instructor. And that's what we're talking about, is that we have 2 school districts in the community of Cottonwood that do not have an equalized salary schedule based on the way the school systems are set up currently. And it makes it almost impossible for that to happen. As Mr. Grosetta mentioned earlier, when you remove a superintendent from one of those 2 districts and you look at slimming down or consolidating the expenses of plant operations and other support systems that are in place there, one special ed director, one a curriculum director, all those different things, you can come up with enough money, the $400,000 that you're talking about, to begin equalizing salaries. It needs to be noted that Arizona statutes do not allow for teacher salaries to be frozen. I know that is a concern to the Mingus teachers, and I appreciate that. I am a 23-year veteran of education. I have been a teacher, a principal, at the elementary as well as the middle school level. So I can appreciate that. So that is how we are looking at the equalization. Now the decision on how those things are done by the school board that is created with the consolidation. That is not anything that we as citizens can say or give a definite answer to, because we do not have that information in front of us, nor are we sitting on those boards. So that's the reason for that.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. My next question is for both groups, and I would like Mr. Renard to go first. Jerome is an artist community, and public school arts education is important to us. Please address possible impacts to visual and performing arts programs should consolidation occur. Mr. Renard.
I'm gonna let Mr. Teague, actually, the art teacher, and Go ahead.
Yeah, so
Excellent.
Tabby,
Thank you, Mr. Teague.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. And really, before I get into this, I do want to say that it's pleasuring for me to see my old boss Denise Kennedy on the computer screen. Even though we're on separate sides of this, I respect the time that we've had. I respect you as my mentor during those first few years, and I haven't had a chance to really say that to you face to face. So I did. It's a perfect time. So now going back to your question, Mandy, it all comes down to money. And really, when us at this particular PAC and at Mingus itself, we look at the possible budget shortfalls of anywhere from $450,000 on the first year to $1 million on the first year. And those numbers are absolutely ranging, but we know that it's going to be a lot. And as an art teacher, going back to my training as an art teacher, the first thing that we're taught is when there's a big downturn in the budget at the district level, the first things that go, it's the arts. It's not math, it's not science, it's definitely not language arts, it's not the core curriculum, because the visual arts, the theater arts, the music, those are the elective classes. So can I say definitively, yes, the arts are going to be cut? No, I can't say that because I don't know exactly what that budget is going to be. What I do know is, looking at the numbers, the new district is going to be facing some really, really hard decisions. And if the district's facing hard decisions, where is that money going to come from? It's going to come from programs, and it's going to come from staff. It's not 10%, 15% cut in the electricity bill or in the cooling and heating bill, the maintenance and operation. That's not enough. 10%, if you just cut the Mingus superintendent, Mingus business manager, Mingus transportation director, Mingus special education director, like if you look at all of those duplicate positions, still only going to save us about $235,000, not enough to cover the cost. And if it's not enough to cover the cost and promises are being made, where is the money going to come from?
Thank you, Mr. Teague. Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grosetta, could you address the same question?
Okay, talk about overrides.
Yeah, I would like to respond to that. We talk about savings. I guess we can agree to disagree. There's no question in our minds that when you streamline administrative services and plan operations, that there's a substantial savings that could be made. When you talk about teacher salaries, the most accurate information that either party has is a study done by David Snyder, the business manager at Cottonwood Oak Creek Schools. This was done in 2018-19 school year, that the discrepancy to equalize teacher salaries is $272,000, okay? Not $400,000, not $500,000, not $600,000. He took teacher for teacher, Cottonwood Oak Creek and Mingus, line item to line item. So that's the best information that we have. Yes, teacher salaries have increased, and that figure is probably going to be a higher figure. But when you take 10% reduction in just administrative services, folks, that's between $300,000 and $400,000, 10 to 15%. So these programs, we want to enhance these programs. We want to take a pot of money and spend that money more efficiently to grow these programs and add new programs.
Okay. I would like to throw in here that with your arts program, you frequently get tax credits that are from the community and people who support those programs, like the theater arts, as well as the what Jason does with the other types of painting and all those things. But we also have overrides, and each district in this valley has an override, and frequently overrides are used to pay for those sorts of programs that are not core curricular. So that's something to take into consideration. The capacity to still have an override remains the same, regardless.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grosetta. My last question on classroom impact is, as the Clarkdale Jerome School District is not included in this proposed consolidation, a solution to providing high school level education is to pay tuition for these students to attend the consolidated district. What other options would be available to high school level students from Jerome should consolidation occur? Mr. Grosetta and Ms. Kennedy.
Well, you know, Mandy, I think it's really important to clarify that parents in Jerome and in Clarkdale do not have to write out a check out of their checkbook to send their children to high school, in any high school in the Verde Valley. So that is definitely something that is paid with taxpayer property tax monies, as well as state equalization funds. So that is not a financial burden on the parents of students.
May I refer you to the PowerPoint that was sent to you earlier? There are 17 different alternatives for the Clarkdale Jerome School District if consolidation passes. And this comes from Tim Carter's office. And I won't read through all of them, but I'll read through some of them. You can consolidate with an existing K through 12 district, consolidate with another elementary district, create a charter high school on your own campus, request an existing charter school to provide high school on your campus, create an alternative school, create a school within a school, create a magnet school, create an AOI program that offers high school credit, pay tuition to one of the various high schools, which that's what's assumed that they're going to do the first year, join a no-cost virtual high school network, work with the tribal nation, the Yavapai Apache Nation to create a high school, work with the local JTED, VAC to have a CTE-focused high school, work with an accredited homeschool network. So there's 2 or 3 others. I don't want to take up all this time. You have that in front of you, but there's 17 different opportunities at the Clarkdale Jerome District, and their board are the folks that are going to make the decision which best for those students to educate them 9 through 12.
Ooh. Thank you, Mr. Grosetta and Ms. Kennedy. I'm moving on to representation. I would like Mr. Renard to address this particular question based on the information provided in our packet from his op-ed to the Verde Independent. Consolidation would remove Jerome residents from voting on issues in the consolidated district, yet the taxpayers would be funding the cost of tuition to send our high school students to the consolidated district. What does this mean for the future of overrides and bonds as related to Jerome constituents? Isn't this taxation without representation? Mr. Renard.
I'll get the easy part out of the way first. How would this affect bonds and overrides? As a matter of fact, just as you wouldn't be able to vote on bonds or overrides, you wouldn't be asked to pay those back. As a matter of fact, and this is one of the things that was brought up in the PowerPoint, Clarkdale Jerome School District would actually have a claim against the new district for current assets purchased with their bond money. Clarkdale Jerome has always been incredibly supportive of Mingus Union High School District. When we asked for a bond in the past years, you guys overwhelmingly voted for it. And so we used your tax dollars to do things like buy new buses, buy new computers, build a new building with the intent that it would benefit the entire union. Well, you guys will now have a claim for the portion of your tax dollars which are spent on that. That being said, is it taxation without representation? Absolutely. Of those 17 things that Mr. Grosetta just said, only one of them, tuitioning in, was brought up by both him and Sylvia Allen on multiple occasions in front of the Senate Education Committee. And here's the thing. If you pull those students, $1.3 million worth of tax revenue disappears from the new district. Now, here we are arguing about whether it's 200, 400, $1 million. If Clarkdale Jerome decides to go elsewhere, which frankly, if they vote not to be part of the union district anymore, that may be the way they're going, the new district will be facing a massive budget crunch. And if given the opportunity, Ms. Worth and Council, I would like to address the salary equalization numbers, if we can come back around to
I've got that further down in fiscal issues, Mr. Renard.
Okay, fantastic. But yeah, I think it's wrong. I think going down, they twice tried to change the law to lessen the impact of the Clarkdale vote, with the ultimate outcome being that Clarkdale Jerome would no longer have a vote on how this high school is run, while at the same time expecting you guys to continue to fund it with your tax dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Renard. The next question is for Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grossetta. This comes from a constituent. Statements indicate that none of the governing boards of the 4 school districts involved, Mingus, COCSD, Clarkdale Jerome, and VACD, support consolidation as proposed. If the assumed positive reasons for consolidation are what's actually best for students, why is this the case? Wouldn't the boards be advocating for consolidation instead of vehemently and publicly opposed? Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grossetta.
Let me start by saying, to make a correction, is that the Mingus board has always been against our efforts. The Cottonwood Oak Creek board for 2 years in a row supported putting the issue on the ballot. That's all that we're asking the people to do, both boards, put the issue on the ballot and give the public, the registered voters, a chance to vote. Vote it up or vote it down.
Correct.
And so the Mingus board is the only board that has gone on record to oppose it. Cottonwood Oak Creek has not gone on record to oppose it. Okay, that's the first thing we need to clear up. The second thing is,
Well, neither did Clarkdale.
and Clarkdale Jerome, we respected their wishes that they wanted to stay out of the process, so we respected those wishes. Regarding boards and governance and why this is grassroots driven, we feel as members in the community, and we have a cross the board, cross section of people from all walks of life who want to improve the educational system of kids here in the Verde Valley and our students. I think we can all recognize that public education in this country is changing every day. In all of our lives, I don't care what discipline you're in, we're in a world of change. And all we're trying to do is to improve the delivery system for our students.
Yeah, I think as far as the governing board and being able to answer why they chose not to, I feel like that's a question that the public would need to put to the governing boards, because they are elected by constituents. And so as the people that voted them in, you know, that would be your question to ask them. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grossetta. A secondary follow-up essentially to that from another, this is actually a combination of 2 constituent questions. A consolidated district would require a new governing board, as discussed. Clarkdale Jerome School District residents would not have the ability to serve on this board, even though taxpayers would most likely be contributing to the new consolidated district via tuition costs for their high school students. Currently, 3 of the 5 members of the Mingus governing board reside in Clarkdale or Jerome. We all know how difficult getting volunteers to serve our communities has become. Additionally, the VACD governing board would be reduced to 4 members from the current 5. Would the out-of-district members be removed before their current terms end? How would a new governing board be determined, appointed, or elected? Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grossetta.
Yeah, Mandy, I'd just like to say that on Thursday, Tim Carter spoke to that on the radio, and he talked about how the people that are from Clarkdale Jerome would go until the end of the year. And then if and when this passes, then they would be replaced with people in the new district. So the thing is, as far as representation for students from Clarkdale, 11% of the population at Mingus comes from Clarkdale Jerome. Clarkdale Jerome pay 18% of the taxes or the support to that school for 11% of their population. There's 138 kids, and let me tell you, as a teacher and somebody who's worked with children for 23 years, and I advocate strongly for my children, and I advocate for my teachers. And so to me, every child is important, but they're not without representation. And the board would only be paying tuition to any school of choice. Currently, you have 175 kids approximately attending Clarkdale Jerome, and that's under open enrollment. This is quite usual in the state of Arizona. There are Jerome and Clarkdale kids that attend Cottonwood Oak Creek. So it's not like this is a whole new science. It's been going on for a while.
39% of the student enrollment at Clarkdale are Cottonwood Oak Creek kids. 39%, 174 students this year. This comes right from the Clarkdale Jerome School District. The people in Cottonwood who are sending their kids to Clarkdale, They're not asking to be represented on the Clarkdale-Jerome School Board. And the Clarkdale-Jerome School District is sending 69 students to the Cottonwood-Oak Creek District. Those parents are not asking to be involved in governance of the Cottonwood-Oak Creek School District. So what we're talking about is no different. The other thing, just to clear things up, Tim Carter said that if consolidation passes in November, that the two existing boards will be joined together until June 30th of next year, of 2021. At that time, the three members who currently serve on Mingus and who live in the Clarkdale-Jerome District, those will be 3 open seats, and the Superintendent Carter will make appointments to those positions. And so then that board and the Cottonwood-Oak Creek Board, it will be a 10-member board, and they will operate until the fall of 2022.
Right.
And then the fall of 2022, November 2022, there will be elections for the new 5-member board. And that's the process that Tim Carter has outlined to both committees. I hope that answers your question.
It does.
Mandy,
Yes.
Mayor, I'm just curious, how much time are we allocating for this? This is going to be quite a discussion, and I know we still have a very full agenda. How much time did you want to allocate for this presentation, please?
You're asking me?
Or what? Mandy or Mayor or whomever. We've got a lot to discuss tonight besides this, and I thought this was just going to be a presentation of this point of view.
I recognize that, Dr. Jack, but this is an important thing for our constituents and our taxpayers. There are 2 follow-up questions, one from a constituent and one from myself. Primarily, these have been constituent questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Mandy.
Okay. Because the presentations themselves addressed some of the questions, I have eliminated several as well. The last constituent question is that the consolidation plan advocates for eliminating positions. What would be the process of determining which of our friends and neighbors who currently work at Mingus and COCSD be fired? Would current district location and/or pay scale be a factor? Would there be formal interviews to determine the best person for the position? Would there be a phase out of extraneous positions or simply termination? This question is addressed to Mr. Grossetta and Ms. Kennedy.
The answer to that question, that's entirely up to the new school board to make those decisions.
Well, and I would like to also add, Mingus, the high school campus will remain. I mean, the people who are working there are needed. I mean, I don't see any positions being lost there. I'm speaking as just a citizen, but the school's functioning there. I don't see anybody losing jobs in Cottonwood-Oak Creek. I don't see that affecting those sorts of things because those campuses will remain and they will still function.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grossetta. My final question is for Mr. Renard and Mr. Teague with the option for rebuttal from Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grossetta. The consolidation plan in the county informational pamphlet proposes that no matter what school district, the property taxpayer will see a small reduction in taxes. It also notes that students from Clarkdale-Jerome district will most likely pay tuition to attend high school grades at the consolidated district. What the informational pamphlet doesn't address is how Clarkdale-Jerome School District will raise the funds to pay that tuition. The statement from the district superintendent shows a primary tax levy increase for Clarkdale-Jerome taxpayers of over $1 million. What is the reality for taxpayers in Jerome if consolidation occurs? Mr. Renard and Mr. Teague.
Yeah, year one actually does show a drop in that. Where you see that $1 million boost to the primary tax levy is in year 2 and year 3 and beyond. And that's a problem. Where's that money going to come from? Ultimately, it's got to come from the taxpayers and from equalization funds. And again, and we've said that, and I'm not saying that equalization funds are going to go away soon, but betting on Arizona State to do the right thing by education has not turned out very well in the past. That being said, again, no indication that they're going to go away in the future. The difference here is, and Mr. Grossetta brought this up, he said, oh, it's the same thing as Cottonwood-Oak Creek parents sending their kid to Clarkdale-Jerome. No, it's not. That's a choice. If this goes through, you take away the choice of the Clarkdale Jerome School District parents. They don't have their own high school anymore to send their kids to. Parents right now in Cottonwood Oak Creek, if they don't want to send their kids to Clarkdale Jerome School District, they can send them to their home district. Right now, we have a union district, which is home to kids in Cottonwood, Clarkdale, Jerome, and the Yavapai Apache Nation. If this goes through, you take away that choice.
And really, the statement of it's really no different, it's really no different. History says that it is, because I look at this screen and I see members of the Clarkdale or I see members of Jerome, this Jerome Council sitting here. You have been the home of Mingus for decades and decades and decades. And once something is taken away, you can't get it back. We at Mingus, we are fighting for you to stay a part of this, because you are a part of our identity, and we are very proud of that relationship that your community has had for Mingus. So just two little caveats. I think that touches it for us, right? Thank you for the question, Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Renard and Mr. Teague. Would Mr. Grossetta and Ms. Kennedy like to rebut?
Please, please. Clarkdale Jerome now pays into the Mingus Union District to educate their 9 through 12 students. 9 through 12, they're paying Mingus Union High School right now. If consolidation passes, they will continue to pay less dollars, and those dollars will go to the Clarkdale Jerome District. And their school board will have the ability and the opportunity to make a decision what to do with those students. There's 17 different alternatives for them to consider. In the voters pamphlet, Mr. Carter assumed that those students the first year would be tuitioned into Mingus Union High School. You will be paying less taxes. We have not even touched the tax scene tonight. The impact of the Clarkdale Jerome voters, you will be paying less taxes than you are today, and you will be tuitioning your students into the newly unified district if that's the decision the board wants to make. So taxes will be going down. The parents will not be paying out of their own pocketbook any additional dollars to tuition. Those tuition dollars comes from the property taxes that the Clarkdale Jerome residents pay, along with state equalization dollars. And those two coupled together, which now pays for their freight going to Mingus, will go to the Clarkdale Jerome District, and it will be a lesser amount than you're paying today. In fact, it's been known as we research this subject from the Arizona Tax and Research Association, the Clarkdale Jerome taxpayers have been paying more than their fair share into Mingus Union High School. This has been going on for years. We didn't know that ourselves, but as we drill deep into the budgetary issues, we found that out. So with that, Denise wants to address the $1.4 million that's not going to come in.
Oh, yeah. The thing is that if consolidation passes, because you are no longer supporting Mingus at the same level, you're just tuitioning your kids in. I did want to say something first, though. I really appreciate what Mr. Renard and Jason said. I mean, it is a parent choice. I get that. And what they're saying is your kids automatically go to Mingus now. Well, some do, some don't. Some choose to get educated, their high school education elsewhere. But the point is, they're always welcome. They'll always have a school they can attend, and hopefully a high school that they feel welcomed in. But the amount that we have calculated through the tax association and all is that the total amount of $1 million will be saved by Clarkdale Jerome taxpayers should consolidation pass. So this is really a win-win, in my opinion, for all of us. We have open enrollment, we have school choice, we have all these options on the table for everybody. And it also gives an option of equalization of salaries for the teachers in the city of Cottonwood, who currently do not share an equalized pay scale. So those are the reasons that I support consolidation.
I would just like to make one last comment. Probably no one in this entire conversation tonight has deeper roots to the old Jerome High School and Mingus Union High School than the fellow that's talking to you right now. My mother and father were born in Jerome. My mother graduated from Jerome High School in 1938. I graduated from Mingus Union High School in 1968. Those buildings that was on the PowerPoint that Steve and Jason had on earlier. We're some of the biggest supporters of Mingus Union High School in the entire Verde Valley. So we want to improve the educational opportunities for our students. We're not here to badmouth any schools. We're here to make the educational experience better. And so we talk about Mingus and Jerome and Clarkdale. I have deep roots in Jerome, Clarkdale, and in Cottonwood, and we want to improve the situation for all of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Grosetta and Ms. Kennedy. I would like to give Mr. Renard the opportunity to respond to salary equalization. I'm going to throw a few statistics on the record here. According to the same Auditor General's report referenced earlier, Mingus had an average teacher salary of $56,371, whereas COCSD had an average teacher salary of $52,441. This is in 2019. This is a 7.5% difference, or approximately $4,000. To bring COCSD's teacher salary up to the same level as Mingus would be a cost of approximately $444,000. Mr. Renard, would you like to address teacher salary equalization?
Absolutely, and I know you guys have given us a lot of time, so I'll try to make this quick. Mr. Grosetta mentioned Mr. Snyder's report as kind of the holy grail. What that does, how Mr. Snyder figured that out, is he basically took all of the Cottonwood Oak Creek teachers and said, hey, if they went into Mingus at new teacher pay levels, what would that give you? And that number is that really low $250,000. So here's the thing though, if someone's been working 10 years at Cottonwood Oak Creek and someone's been working 10 years at Mingus Union High School, and we go with that equalization strategy, do you know what it's not? It's not equal. Because if you do that, the person who's been getting raises year after year at Mingus is still going to be making more money than someone who comes in at a year one salary based on the salary pay. So with the governor's 20 by 20 promises, you have the teachers who have been there over the past years making significantly more than they were just 3 years ago. However, the initial pay scale has just moved up a little bit. So if you want equality, and if you look at the 2020 numbers, when you take into account the raises that were given, Mingus was able to put together another, I think it was 6.5%, 7% raise, not just for the teachers, but for all of their staff, certified staff. Last year, when you look at the current numbers, including those raises, it's actually, that's where that $1 million comes in. It actually turns into about $600,000. And that's why you have that $1 million shortfall. And that doesn't count 301. That doesn't count classified staff. That doesn't count anything else. So when you're looking at equalization, you're talking about the cost of equalization running somewhere north of $500,000. Now, they say, oh, well, teachers can't be frozen and can't have their pay docked post-consolidation. And that's true for 1 year. And that's why I said time and time again, day one of equalization. If you want to truly equalize, if you want to bring the Cottonwood Oak Creek teachers, and by God, they deserve a raise. By God, yes, they absolutely deserve more money. And no one at Mingus would ever say anything else. But the cost of that, let's be real, the cost of bringing up the Cottonwood Oak Creek district teachers up to the level where Mingus Union High School right now is, will create, and I put in the 2018 report, you guys all have that in your packets. It shows there a budget shortfall of $450,000. When you increase that over that 20 by 20 thing, that total budget shortfall hits $1 million. And that is a problem. Where does that money come from? Does it come from the arts? Who do we fire? Do we reduce teacher pay? Now we can sit there and push that down the road and say, oh, the new board will figure it out. But there should be a plan. There should be some sense of what we as a community are okay with and what we're not. Can we improve education? Absolutely. We argue about it daily. This isn't the way.
Thank you, Mr. Renard. Ms. Mayor, are there any questions from the council and or members of the Jerome public?
Mayor, there's some.
Do we have any questions from the council?
No, but I see.
Do you
people
see
on the
any hands
phone.
raised, Candace?
I'm not seeing any hands up unless that's Jane. I can't tell. Yes, Jane has her hand up.
Please.
I just wanted to thank all the participants for the good information that we received. It was very helpful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Well, thank you for having us.
No, appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Ms. Jane. As noted in the packet, the presenters will each have 3 minutes to conclude their comments. Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grosetta.
Okay. We feel like the reasons to vote yes on school consolidation. Clarkdale Jerome is allowed to maintain their independence. They did not want anything to change for them and their little town school there, which is so quaint and cute. And we so respected that. That really is a community school, so to speak. And the parents maintain their right to a high school choice, a choice of the high school they want their children to attend. We feel like consolidation is right because it is good for students. It gives an alignment of instructional curriculum K through 12 in special education and in general education. It coordinates school calendars K through 12 in the community of Cottonwood. And the Verde Academy for Career and Technology remains unaffected. Their funding is not impacted by this. It is true, they would lose a board member, but that is not a negative impact in the sense that they will lose funding or anything. Continuation and expansion of arts, music, theater, and athletics K-12. You can start programs down in the 7th, 8th, 9th grade and move them on up into the upper grades. So we have fluid instruction with those things. And it does allow, and it is good for teachers because there will be equalization and alignment of curriculum for instruction. And we feel like that will have a positive impact on the students' testing results in the state of Arizona. If you look at the Auditor General's report for all 3 school districts, you can see that by the time students arrive in Mingus, the percentage meeting the state standards is a little bit lower. And I know the curriculum gets tougher, but the idea is that they are prepared for that as they go through the system. And finally, we believe that school consolidation is good because it allows it's good for the taxpayers. It's a good fiscal sense. It's using your money wisely. I just heard all of you speaking tonight about how well you're doing fiscally. So I know you're attuned to those sorts of things, and it will not raise taxes for anybody. That was a main concern when we certainly started on this journey. So, and there is declining enrollment in the state of Arizona due to retirement, communities coming in, people waiting to start their families. We expect to see a reduction in student enrollment in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grosetta. Mr. Teague and Mr. Renard, your 3-minute closing remarks, please.
Lady Mayor and council members, really for us, it is a question of balance. Ms. Kennedy and Mr. Grosetta have said we're talking curricular alignment, we're talking about a better use of tax dollars, we're able to cut administrative and dual positions, and that's going to save us money. Okay, yes, that if we cut dual positions, yeah, there is going to be money saved. But when you look at the balance and how that's counterbalanced by how much consolidation is going to cost, the benefits are going to be completely washed out, and it's going to create a shortfall for the new district. That is going to be a shortfall that is going to affect every student in the Upper Verde Valley. The students in the new district, as well as the students that currently go to Clarkdale, that if consolidation goes through, that the parents decide to send them over, you are going to see that shortfall as well. Really what it comes down to, How much is your vote worth? Is this worth a $12, $25, $50 tax reduction per year? When I looked at my taxes, I was like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna save $35 a year in my tax bill. I would much rather spend that $35 to make sure that the students in K-12 from the elementary district all the way up to the high school district has a viable and worthwhile education. I would rather make sure that that money goes and properly supports teachers and administrations and all schools that are here in the Upper Verde Valley. Why gamble? Why gamble with something if we don't know what the end result is going to be? Thank you for your time.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I very much appreciate both presenter groups as well as the council's time for this particular issue that will affect our Jerome constituents and our taxpayers. Ms. Mayor?
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mamie.
Mamie.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you, representatives on both
Can
sides.
we move on to
Thank
item?
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna
7B?
exit.
Yes, please.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 7B, Clarkdale Jerome School District Override. Danny Brown, Superintendent of the Clarkdale Jerome Elementary School District, will provide information regarding the budget override that will be on the November ballot. Danny, please.
Unmute.
Thank you, Mayor Barber, members of the council, and members of the audience. It's time for Clarkdale Jerome Elementary School District to renew its override. The override has been in place since 2011. I do believe it was also renewed in 2015. This override is a 10% budget override, as it has been in the past. And the impact, I want to let everybody know that the benefits in the prior presentations, the arts was discussed. The override, if passed in the November 3rd election, will continue to support our art program. Erica Bergamini does an unbelievably outstanding job. And if you're on Facebook, please go look up Clarkdale Jerome Art and follow her on Facebook. She posts a tremendous amount of art that work that the kids have been doing over the past several years. Our art program is a blossoming, flourishing art program. Each of our students in kindergarten through 5th grade get 2 art periods a week. So it's a little over 1 hour a week that all of our students in the kindergarten through 5th grade levels get. Our art program also is on, for our 6th through 8th grade students, is on a rotational basis. And so each kid gets at least 1 quarter. Usually they get 2 quarters of art at the middle school level. Not only does the override pay for our art program, but it also pays for our physical education program. Mr. Sandoval has been our longtime art teacher, does a tremendous job, and that's set up the same way. The program offerings are set up the same way they offer our art program. In the state of Arizona, the Arizona legislature does not fully fund kindergarten students. It pays for half of a kindergarten program. So the school districts across the state of Arizona have to fund on their own the remaining half of that kindergarten program for full day kindergarten. We know that the benefits of full day kindergarten are tremendous for learning and social and emotional for our little kindergarten kids. And so this override does help support our kindergarten program also, and pays for one of our kindergarten teachers. And we also allow some of this money goes to paying for some of our paraprofessionals also that go into the classrooms and help with small group instruction, intervention, and remediation. So those are the benefits of our override. I want to say also this is not a new tax. This is just a continuation of the override that's been in place since 2011. And on an average, the average taxpayer will continue to pay approximately $83.15 a year, or an average of almost $7 a month on a $250,000 assessed home. And so we're excited about continuing with the override. We've been out canvassing over the last couple of weeks. And I wanted to just give you the facts. Obviously, as a superintendent, I can't give you my opinion, but I can let you know what the tax implications are and what our override is paying for.
Thank you.
Mayor Mandy has her hand up.
Yes, Mandy?
Thank you, Superintendent. I just want to clarify in a little simpler language that what this tax override does is continues existing programs as placed, and that it also does not change the existing tax levy on our Jerome constituents. Are both of those statements correct?
You are absolutely correct, Councilman Worth.
Thank you very much, Superintendent.
Jack has his hand up, Mayor.
Thank you. Jack, yes.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mandy, for making that point. That's real important. It's continuation. What's the length of the override, please, Superintendent? How long, if we vote for it now, is it 1 year, 2 year, 3 years?
It will go for another 7 years.
7 years. So I hope I can go for another 7 years. Okay. Good, thank you.
Good question.
Do we have any other questions from the council?
Well, I think it's money well spent, but that's just me.
Do we have any questions from the public, Candace?
I don't see any hands up.
Okay, thank you for your time, everyone. We will move on to item
Thank you,
number
Superintendent.
Thank you.